little song that my grandmother taught me a long time ago. One day I was sick and I wasn't feeling too good. But she said, son, come on down to the room. Come on in the room.
Come on in the room.
Jesus,
He's my doctor.
and he
Right up all my prescription.
and he gives.
Me all of my medicine.
Come on, let's in the room. Yeah. Why don't you come on in the room?
Come on in the room.
Jesus,
Jesus is my doctor.
and he
Right up all my prescription.
oh, and he gives.
All of my medicine.
Come on, let's in the prayer. Oh, Lord. Listen here, y'all. I don't know if you ever been in the room before, but whatever you need is in the room. It's in the room. All you got to do is come on down. Come on in.
Hey everybody, we're not quite adjusted yet. Come on in the room. It's good to see everyone. Good evening, good evening. Please push the share button, let people know that we are online live. And it's just good to have the opportunity again to always talk about the word of the Lord. Come on, I'm waiting for some numbers to get up. Push that share button, push that share button. Good evening to all of you that have tuned in so far. Say hello to us. Let us know that you are there. Amen. All right, that's better. That's better. The numbers are coming up. All right. Well, first and foremost, before we get started, we definitely want to give a big thank you. I know we both put posts out, but we want to give a big thank you for an awesome weekend. And we definitely feel the love and appreciate all of you for taking time out to either send us a message or stop by or whatever it was. They don't go lightly. They're taken seriously, and we really appreciate you all. You want to say anything on that?
No, thank you. I said it in the post. I said it at the services. I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
All right. All right, we got enough people here, so let's get started. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and speak a word. And I pray that you will bless this word to be encouraging, uplifting, with understanding, and that you will be glorified out of it. In Jesus' name, amen. We are going to talk about God is faithful. God is faithful, and we're actually going to use Joseph's story. I've been ministering this the last couple of days on my job, and it's just I'm trying not to get too excited over it. There's so many little lessons in here, but we just want to emphasize on some things. And you'll find Joseph's story in the book of Genesis chapter 37 all the way to chapter 50. So it's quite a bit of the story. Obviously, we're not going to go through all the verses, but I did pick a couple just to stand out, and we'll make reference to others. But Genesis 37:3 says, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. There's a lesson right there. Because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. That is going to be the basis of this story. And I know some of you are saying, well, I know the Joseph story. That's all right. It's meant for you to come with us as we go through it again and bring some things to your attention and to your knowledge. So we understand Abraham's son Isaac gave birth to Jacob and Esau. And I mean, you can go back in the lineage. We know how Jacob took a birthright that was not his. And then Jacob himself was in love with Rebecca. And it took him a long time before he got the wife that he wanted. But when he got her, he had two sons, and he was an older man. So whenever you read the Bible in the Old Testament and they name someone, that name has a meaning. So the fact that he was excited and named him Joseph, we know that he was the one that he loved more than all his other children. And that's hard to do. Joseph was not even the baby. There was another boy by the name of Benjamin. There was even a daughter by the name of Dinah. But for whatever reason, he loved Joseph, and he made it known. And when it says here that he made him a robe of many colors, in biblical times, colors represented things, material represented things. That's why when you get to the woman who washed Jesus' feet with her hair, but she poured the ointments on it, those ointments meant things, and that wasn't something you just come by. So the fact that he would put together a coat of many colors and give it to the one son over the rest of them, this caused anger amongst the children. And we have to be careful sometimes that we don't do things to bring division amongst the family, the church, the body, because favoritism can really ruin a lot of things. And we have to be careful not to be favorites over anything.
You even find that in school. You ever hear someone talk about, oh, you're the teacher's pet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the teacher favors you and so forth. And so it goes not just even in family and
No.
different.
No.
Sometimes you might feel that your boss
At work.
might favor a coworker. I know I've had that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to get extra privileges that are awarded to them, but not to others, because why? They are the favorite.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that those of you listening to us don't have people that you might consider to be favorite to you or you favor over others, but you cannot treat them different than other people in public. And so this is what happened. But this is not just job and stuff. These are brothers trying to impress their father. And he chose the second youngest of the family. And that's where they're upset. And now to add to it, because you know, when they say when it rains, it pours, to add to it, God has given Joseph a special gift, and that was to dream and to interpret dreams. And we see the first one here where he's so excited. Can you imagine how excited he was that he wanted to tell his family and all of them this dream that God gave him? It wasn't to show anything of power or anything of prestige. He was just excited because God gave him a dream. And the dream was that he was going to one day be a ruler, and his brothers and all of his parents and all of those around would be under him. They would bow to him. Okay, so they're already upset because he's daddy's favorite. Daddy gave him a robe of many colors. And now you got the nerve to come and tell us a dream that we are going to bow down to you?
You know, it's funny, even before you get there, I find it very interesting that Joseph's dream, that he believed him, because a lot of times God will give us dreams and visions, but we think it's just a dream. It's just for the night. We don't really read into it as to know this is something that is supposed to be. This is something that's going to come to pass. So just the fact that Joseph believed God was showing him these dreams even goes beyond what is in these notes.
That's true, because you said it. You know, we can wake up and say, I had this dream last night, and if the dream sounds outrageous, first thing we'll say is, oh, well, good thing it was just a dream.
Mm.
Was it?
Sometimes you wake up from a really good dream and you're like, oh, I wish that was it. And then you try and hurry up and go back to sleep so that you can go back to the dream.
Mm-hmm. And you never do.
Never. But if it's a horror story, a horror dream,
you always go back.
You go back right to where you left off. Yes, that's what happens.
So he had a dream. He had a dream, and they believed the dream. That is such a very good point, because it's true. I never thought of that. Today, because we've said many times that we woke up with dreams and we just kind of laughed at them and said, wow, that was quite a dream. That was quite a twist. But the reality is here, when he told the dream, they were upset because they believed the dream and had the nerve to say, who do you think you are? Now watch this. To make matters worse, Joseph began relating his dreams to not just the brethren, but to the family. Prophetic visions showing Joseph one day being a ruler. And the animosity between Joseph peaked with his brothers until they plotted to kill him in the wilderness. Ladies and gentlemen, these boys is mad. They are angry. Jealousy, because they're jealous of the fact that the father loved him more. And people don't realize these kind of feelings and these kind of things can destroy, can erupt if you don't take care of them. And it's worse when you've got a bunch of people feeling the same way, right?
Because misery feeds off of other misery. Misery loves company.
That's right.
If you link up with somebody who's got the same negative feelings as you, it's just going to escalate the whole situation.
Because there's 12 boys. Now, Benjamin's not involved in this. He's the baby of the family. So now you've got
Us babies,
10 boys, and they're agreeing with one another. And one says, you know what? We're going to kill him. Let's take him out and we're going to kill him in the wilderness. And for a moment, they all agreed. Y'all hearing this? For a moment, they all agreed.
Jealousy is a terrible thing. When you are jealous and envious, you know that it's so powerful that was one of the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot covet.
It's
envy.
It's so powerful that's the thing that got Lucifer himself
kicked out.
He was jealous of Jesus the Christ, the Son of God, and it caused him to be thrown out. Don't y'all sit here and mess around with that jealous demon, because it'll cause you to plot murder. And some of y'all might say, oh, I'd never do that. Some of y'all done killed a whole lot of people in your imagination.
Yeah, that's so true.
Come on, you done killed them, you done been to the funeral, and you had words. But you can't do that.
You can't do that. And when you look at the Lucifer, you know, he thought that he could be greater than God. You know, we say, oh, they could do it, I could do it better. I was telling somebody at the game, it was a guy versus girl on one of the little halftime shows or whatever, and she won. And it's a friend way back from Amherstburg. And I said, you know, anything you can do, us girls can do better. And I was just joking. But you know, a lot of people look at that way, like, oh, look at them. They're getting all these accolades. I can do that better than them. And they try to outdo. This isn't outdo. God gave each of us something to do in the vineyard.
That's right.
And I don't want to operate in something just because somebody might get the glory out. If that's not for me, I'll flop. You know, I can't
Say that again.
If I try to operate in somebody else's ministry, I'm going to fail.
That's right.
I'm going to flop because that's not what God gave to me.
That's right.
You know, you say that can't we just all get along? We all have a part. We all have a part. And children are different. Sierra's very different than Paul.
Yeah. But
they're both great.
Yeah. 100%. So here they are: jealousy, murder, the plot. As they're thinking, as they're watching this, as they're going on with this, Reuben, the oldest boy, says, now wait a minute, fellas, wait a minute. There's always one, thank the Lord,
hallelujah,
who can calm the others. He said, now hold on, fellas, I'm the oldest here, and I just think murder might be too far. So let's not murder him. But what we're going to do is we're going to throw him into, and some Bible says a pit. The biblical word for this is a cistern, which is almost like a well, a deep hole. And we're going to just throw him there and let him just rot. And we're going to take his coat of many colors, and we're going to put the blood of an animal on it. So when we return without him, we're going to tell the father he was killed by a beast.
Deception. Jealousy,
oh my goodness.
And deception.
Are y'all writing this down? It started off with jealousy, and now we are at deception.
Lies.
Wait, jealousy, plotting, and deception. And while they're going through all of this, they agreed with Reuben. They put him in this pit, and then Reuben left. Now, while he was gone, some merchants came by, and the boys without Reuben said, you know what? This ain't even good enough. Why don't we sell him to these merchants?
They thought, at least his blood won't be on our hands.
Exactly.
We want him gone, but we don't want the blood on our hands.
Jealousy, plotting, what else I say?
Deceit.
Deceitfulness, and now you're selling your brother. You're getting rid of him. And they do. And by the time Reuben gets back, because Reuben's mind was, we'll leave him there, but I'm going to go back and I'm eventually going to rescue him. I'm going to bring him back and we're going to settle all of this because he's still my brother. But when Reuben got back, can you imagine what he must have felt like when he found out, sorry, man, these fellas came by and we sold them. Lord have mercy.
But when you look at it, so we know jealousy also leads to such a selfishness.
Yeah.
Because if they knew that their father loved him the most, but they still loved their father, but they hated that fact in their brother so much that they were willing to put their father through losing a child. Not only any child, his favorite child. They did not take his feelings in consideration just because his brother had a position that they wanted.
Wow.
That's sad.
Wow.
Selfish.
And these, ladies and gentlemen, these are tactics. These are weapons of the devil. This is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get you to think straight. He doesn't get you to look at the bigger picture. He gets you to look about you, yourself, just you. Oh, we're going to get rid of him because he's the one that daddy loves the most, and daddy's going to have to now pay attention to us.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think that through, though, because there was 10 of them. I'm just saying.
If he had one favorite out of all of you, there could be this
Well, we gonna
husband
find
who's
out.
going to have a new favorite.
We're going to find out in a minute because he does take a new favorite. So here we go. So the boys did that. They took the robe to Joseph's robe back to their father. They dipped it in the goat's blood. They deceived their father.
The same he was killed.
When the Bible tells us later on that if you honor your mother and your father, you will live long. I believe these here are reasons showing back in the Old Testament that they would do trickery and stuff, and they would deceive the father to a point that they allowed him to believe Joseph is dead. They don't have cell phones. They don't have no form of media. If he's gone, he's gone. And they caused the father to mourn and break his heart because his favorite son was killed by a beast.
You know what? We really have to know that when somebody's jealous and they come to you with what they want you to believe as truth, this is where we talk about several times. You got to have that discerning spirit, because he didn't even go to check. He took
it
at their word.
That's it.
But who would have thought that your own children
That's the point.
would do that to you? A lot of us are being deceived by people we would be shocked that we're being deceived by.
They always say church hurt is the worst hurt because you never expect to be hurt by someone in church.
Right.
The problem is we forget that every person that goes to church is just a sinner saved by grace.
Or they could just be a sinner, just
say,
there.
and not all of them got saved
That's
by
right.
that grace. So when you get hurt, you can't look at, because some folk would do that, Sherry. They'll leave the whole church over one person that hurt them.
But yet, if they're sick, real sick, they still go to the hospital, although there's a lot of people that go to the hospital and die. They don't get better.
Come on.
But we still go to the hospital for our surgeries, for, when we're real sick, we need to be seen by a doctor. That's also a trick, because the devil works in that, because he doesn't want you to go to church. So when somebody in church who is just flesh anyway,
and they ain't thinking no more about you.
You're supposed to go to church to have your mind and your eyes on the Lord.
On the Lord.
not on one another, because in every avenue, you're going to see someone who doesn't operate. If you want trust to know, you go Google some doctors. I know when I was looking for a doctor, I was Googling and I was looking at reviews. Some people praised them up. Some people was like tore them down. You have to try them for yourself. Somebody put on Facebook today, stop judging people off of the opinions of others.
Yep. Because you're going to find out that that person to you is not what they might have appeared to be to somebody else.
And sometimes that person wants you to not like them, so they will make up stories to get you to feel like, oh yeah. So you gotta, I mean, it's
tough.
You just gotta know.
So look what's happening in Joseph's life, because by the time we're done with this tonight, this is only the first step. All right?
Yeah, because the beginning, I'll say it at the end, the beginning of the story, I had one view, and then the end of the story, I had a totally different view.
But look, I want you to put yourself in Joseph's shoes, because in the midst of everything that we're going to talk about, not once did you hear Joseph cursing God or blaming God. He went with the flow. He was trusting and believing that his God was going to keep him. And what happens? He's thrown into a pit, traded by his own brothers to some merchants. And now the next time we hear about him, he's now sold from the merchants to a high-ranking Egyptian named Potiphar. Look at there. He went from a pit to a slave, and now he was purchased by Potiphar. And what I love about it, I read one commentary that said, Potiphar saw that the favor of God was on Joseph's life. That's why, my brothers and sisters, he gave Joseph a high position in his house. Joseph really couldn't do anything because he was supposed to be a slave purchased by Potiphar. But Potiphar, see, God will allow people to see what they need to see to get you where you need to be. That is so good
it's not on, like, so many people say, well, he had other
many other slaves
and servants and so forth. Yeah. But yet here comes somebody who they wouldn't have thought deserved it. But listen, whether people think you deserve it or not, when God wants you somewhere, he will elevate you. It will blow man's mind.
Come on.
They won't understand it.
Come on.
But when God has something ordained over your life, it will come to pass if you trust him. Because I believe a lot of people don't go where they need to go, where God wants them to go, because they don't trust the directions of the Lord.
Uncle Larry just messed me up because I never looked at it that way. He said, that's the favor of God. Listen, it started off.
Favor's not fair.
It started off because his father favored him. And now it says Potiphar was watching him do all of these things. And all of a sudden, Potiphar starts to favor him to a point that he makes him ruler, supervisor of his house.
No matter where the devil tries to enslave you, bring you, the favor of God follows you everywhere you go.
Favor everywhere. Don't matter. It's still favor. One person might not see it, but it doesn't mean the favor leaves you. I'm walking in favor. Somebody put that up there. There's my first one for tonight. I got so many, I'm not trying to, but somebody put in there, I walk in favor. All right? So here he is. Potiphar trusted him. Potiphar could see that what Joseph did, whatever he put his hands to, God looked favorably on him, and he prospered, watch this, in all that he did. That is what favor does. When you go somewhere, you got a job that you're not qualified for. You got a job that people said you'll never get. You go into a job and you're supposed to be the low person, and all of a sudden you're the high person, because that's what favor does. And Lady Sherry already said it. Favor just ain't fair.
And it follows you. But of course, the devil don't like you to have the favor of God. Things are going too good now. You're starting to really walk in the favor of God. So I got to show myself again.
So the first time he was favored by his father, the devil used the sons to show up. Now he's favored, and he's become a ruler of a house, just a house. No doubt Joseph might have thought, man, maybe this is what God was with the dream. Maybe I am going to be this ruler over Potiphar's house. But here comes the devil. And the devil came in the form of Potiphar's wife. Lord,
but you see how it always comes to it's somebody who's close.
Yeah, first it was his
You know,
brothers.
be careful. They say, be careful who you're close with.
That's right.
Because that is, you know, we tend to be so shocked. But the devil tries to use the people that
Closest.
are closest to you.
Closest.
Because it's greater impact. You could care less if it's a stranger.
Right.
We got to try and work through the people. Don't let the devil use you to get to somebody
Come on.
that's close to you.
So unfortunately, Potiphar's wife saw him differently than Potiphar did. Potiphar saw the favor of God on him, and Potiphar's wife saw a good-looking man that she wanted to be hers. And the Bible says, we're now in chapter 39, that Potiphar's wife, who had entrusted him with so much in saying that he would be a wicked thing and a sin against God, for him to go to bed with Potiphar's wife. She tried, y'all. She tried. And he kept saying no. He reminds me of my great niece. Don't tell her no. You can say whatever you want, but the minute you tell her no, that rage comes out, that anger comes out. You can say whatever you want. You can say, oh, don't do that. Or you can say, oh, put that down. But the minute you say no, woo, boy, oh, Lord, attitude. And all he did was, despite all of her efforts, he said no. To a point. To a point, y'all. I want y'all to visualize this. She is throwing herself at him, and he's trying to get away until she had a hold of his cloak, the outer garment, and he just took it off and left.
He's like, you can have it. I'm out.
Gone. He didn't care. I'm out of here. But look what the devil does. The devil got her so angry. She could have took the cloak and returned it to him another time. She could have made more advances in the future.
Well, or she could even burnt it just to try to get back at him.
Right. But you know what she did? She waited for her husband to get home, and she told her husband, Joseph tried to rape me, and I got proof.
Deception.
I got proof.
Here's his cloak.
Here's his cloak.
How would I get it?
Yep. The brothers said Joseph was killed by an animal. I got proof. Here's his coat. She said he tried to rape me. I got proof. Here's his coat. Are y'all hearing this? Listen, this is one thing I want to point out, because we're going to talk about some more. The devil ain't really that smart, y'all.
No, he's stupid.
He really ain't, because he just does the same thing over and over. We fall for it. But he just did the same thing to different people.
And the thing that his dad gave him to be a blessing
was used for deceit. So,
well, that's not the same cloak, because the
but
other
still,
one was but you know what I mean?
It's
The whole cloak part.
Thought of it. So here we are. He went from being a favorite to a pit. I'm gonna be repeating this, so y'all just follow. To a pit, to a plot of murder, but then sold, and then took and sold from the seller, from the buyer, to another person, and then elevated because they seen the favor of God, and then tricked and lied and deceived on again by the person's wife, and now he's in jail. From one pit
to another.
He's in jail. But watch what happens. Oh, good Lord, you can have this sermon. What preachers are on here? Let me see. Jeremiah Hauser, preach this one. He was in jail. But what do you do?
This is a story that we know.
We know it. But what do you do when you're stuck in jail? Preach that sermon, because there's so much you can do with that.
When you're stuck in a rut.
What do you do when you're stuck in jail? Joseph could have cried. He could have screamed. He could have complained. But the Bible tells us that very gift that God gave him to dream and interpret, he starts to use it
in jail.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Some people would want to shut up and shut their mouths, like, I ain't
singing no more.
I'll curse God. I'd rather curse God and die, because look what it gets me when I don't do that.
He began to use his gifts. Now, you got to understand, God was showing him, though, that he's still there, because God says to him, he says, I'm going to send you 2 people, and they're going to say, hey, man, I had this dream. And it's going to wake Joseph up. Oh, So I'm supposed to use my ministry in here. I've been teaching this so much at my job, Sherry. I've been trying to enforce to people where you are is where God has you to be right now. I know we're trying to get somewhere better. I know we're always trying to move forward. But before you go forward and move better, look around and say, Lord, but have I done what I'm supposed to do with where I'm at?
Yeah. What is your purpose for me where I'm at right now?
So he's in jail and he says, Lord, what am I supposed to do while I'm in jail? And God says, minister. And he does. He starts to interpret the dreams,
The gifting that God gave him.
the gift of the two men that were in jail with him.
Mm-hmm.
And what he says to them, if you get out before me, remember me. Don't that remind you of the thief on the cross?
Yep.
Jesus, when you go, just remember me.
Remember.
Joseph said, listen, I'm doing what God's telling me to do, but if you get out before me, remember me. And they did. They got out before him. One of them actually became the king's cupbearer.
He got his job, because I think that's what he was before.
Yeah, but that ain't the greatest job, because, you know, a cupbearer really is the one who tastes the food and stuff like that before the king, not just one that brings it to him, but he's got to taste it because that's what they do.
Just in case somebody tried to poison him. If you die, then he knows I can't eat it.
Listen, if Johnny died, I ain't eating it.
You get sick, that lets me know.
So here he is. Watch this. They get out. This cupbearer gets his position back, but he forgot. He was so excited to get back into his life. And they say he stayed there for 3 years. The guy forgot. Now, Lord, have mercy. Some of y'all are wondering, Lord, why am I still here? I've been in this situation for 3 years. You got work to do. You got work to do. They forgot about him, but God didn't.
No.
God didn't. God gave him a little vacation because what's about to happen. All right. So finally, 3 years later, the king has or 2 years later, the king has an issue. He's having some troubling dreams, and nobody can seem to interpret them. And the cupbearer says, wait, I'm so sorry.
Light bulb.
There is a man who can interpret your dreams. I know this because he did mine. I know this. And the king said, where is he? He's in your jail. Go get him. All right. From the pit to being sold, to being bought, to being elevated, to being in jail. And now, and every time it went a little higher, didn't it? Because the first one was Potiphar, who was just a rich man. Now the king says, bring him to me. He was, hear this. He was not going there to be on trial for why he was in jail. He was not going there to plead his case as to why he was wronged or lied on and deceived. That's not why the king brought him. And Joseph never said none of that. Joseph was brought, I don't know who I'm talking to. Joseph was brought there for one specific reason, to use his gift. I want that to sink in for a minute, because there's a whole lot of folk that take advantage of being somewhere, and they want to take advantage of that position. They want to take advantage of that opportunity. And instead of using the gift that God gave them, they mess themselves up. They messed themselves. We were just watching Judge Judy before this came on, and she told one woman, shut up. She said, you make no sense. That's not why you're here. Why are you here? I don't understand why you're here. Come on. So, I'm just saying, I'm wondering, do you take advantage of stuff like that? He was brought to the king all these time in jail. He could have said, I'm here to defend myself. He did not.
He did.
I'm here because the dream of the king, it's my gift to interpret it. Look what he says to Pharaoh. He says, Joseph says, 7 years of bountiful harvest, followed by 7 years of severe famine in Egypt. And he advised the king to begin storing grain in preparation for the coming dearth. Man, the king's like, whoa, wait, let me get all this. Let me write this down. That's me thinking, let me write this down. We're going to have 7 years. Oh, but I better store up because we're also going to get 7 years of famine. You saved me. You saved my kingdom. And because, here we go, he used his gift. Once again, Joseph is favored.
Yep. It says you have to save up. When you're at plenty, you got to save up for when that famine comes. So Joseph now is in charge of storing up the food.
Ooh,
For the years.
that's
In
it.
the years of plenty, for when that time comes.
I got this little saying here I highlighted. It says, for his wisdom, Joseph was made ruler in Egypt, second only to the king. But watch this. The king called it wisdom, but we know it was his gift. And the Bible says your gift
Will make
room
for you.
for you. I don't know who just needed that. Stop pushing it. Your gift will make room.
Mm-hmm.
Use your gift when it's your turn.
Yes. Use your gift, and when it's time for you to be elevated, because you were faithful and you trusted God, it will elevate you. But don't be discouraged at the times where you are in a pit, that you are in prison. You are going to be there. It's just going to make. It's just not your time.
That's it.
But it's always your time to do what God has told you to do
While you're there. Yes, ma'am. So Joseph was in charge, as she says, of storing up food during the years of plenty and selling it to the Egyptians and foreigners during the years of the famine. All right, here we go. All right. So when the famine struck, now we already said how many years of goodness? 7. So some time, y'all, has gone by.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is no longer a little boy. Some time has gone by. And when the famine struck, it even hit Canaan, where his family was from. Okay. And Jacob says to his 10 sons, there you go again. Oh, Benjamin ain't in there. Oh, Benjamin was just a baby of the family. Go to Egypt and buy grain. Isn't that interesting? The famine was so big that it reached Canaan. And
it had to reach Canaan.
It had to.
For the dreams to come.
God has to get their attention. That's why some of y'all, I don't know why I'm going to say this, stop beating up people who have come and left out of your life. They came for a reason.
And a season.
And when they left, you need to not bash them. You need to look at it and realize that had to happen. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to get there in a minute. We're going to get there. We're not there. I'm going too soon. So the Bible tells us in Genesis 42:4 that he kept Benjamin his youngest and the only son of Rachel. Remember I told you he had a special feeling for Rachel.
Only other son of Rachel.
And he kept him behind. Mm-hmm. These 2 boys mean so much to me because it's from the woman I tried to marry the first time. But I had to go through all her sisters. Okay. Anyways, while in Egypt, the men met their long-lost brother. But wouldn't you know how God works? They didn't even recognize him. Sherry, he was a little boy when they did this.
Yeah, he was. Wasn't he like 15 or something?
He was young, but now he's grown. And he's grown, and they didn't. Now, I too have issues with that because I think I would know my kinfolk.
You would think, but obviously not.
But they did not recognize him. But I firmly believe.
Just think of he was just, now he's in a kingdom now.
And he's in a position where that's right. They never would have expected to see him there. But I also believe God intended for them not to recognize him.
Of course.
All right, so here we go. Joseph, however, all right, I've read this story, I've preached this story, and I started looking back at it, and I said, well, Lord, I'm kind of questioning some of the actions of Joseph here, because, let's go. Joseph did recognize his brother. So what does he do?
Yeah.
He puts him to a test. I think he's playing, y'all. Let's put him to a test.
Do you think that could have been like, the fleshy part of it all?
I believe that there's some.
Oh, here they are.
They don't recognize me.
Yeah, they don't. So let's test them.
Now he never intended. There was never to be no harm.
Oh no!
But I'm going to test them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what does he do? He accuses them of being spies. So he confines them. Watch this. For 3 days in a jail. Can you imagine those 3 days?
Listen, you're going to get a little bit of feeling of being enslaved.
Can you imagine? I can't. What them 10 brothers were saying to each other those 3 days that they was trapped in jail. Some of y'all can't take being trapped one day. They was trapped
Listen.
for 3, not even knowing why they were there and what they were accused of. We didn't do that. We're not spies. What are you talking about?
Look how we were during the pandemic when we were shut in.
Shut
we
in.
had still had all the amenities, the TV, food, you know. But you'd have thought we
Still
were in
felt
prison.
trapped. Listen.
Was
So
for a long time.
he tested them by accusing them of being spies. He confined them for 3 days, but then he released them. But when he releases them, he sends them with grain for their
He
household.
released all
But he kept one behind, Simeon. Now, why would he do that? He knew if he'd have sent all 10 back, they just never would have
they
come
wouldn't
back.
come back. You
But
had to
if
have a
he-
reason for
Gotta
the
have a
return.
reason. So he says, I'm going to keep one. Simeon, I pick you. I don't know if it was an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know if it was a 1, 2, not you. I don't know. But he chose Simeon. And he says, go and bring back your youngest brother. Now, that would have caused something to me. I'd have been like, what? Why in the world does he want my youngest brother? Something would have started registering in my brain. I'd have started thinking, 1, how do you know I have a younger brother? 2, why do you want him? But Joseph knew what he was doing. I'm just saying, y'all, this is the way I think. Still unaware of Joseph's identity, the brothers were afflicted with guilt of having sold their brother years before. So I want to point something out to you because I thought it was interesting that the author would bring this up. And you'll find this in Genesis 42, 21, 22. I thought it was interesting because we think sometimes that people forget when they hurt us. We think sometimes that people will just move on with their lives. But the truth of the matter is,
It haunts them.
guilt haunts people, y'all. Don't worry. When it says God gets his revenge, God's revenge is something that lasts a whole lot longer than man's. And here we are years later, and now they know they have to go tell their father, who is still mourning over the loss of his favorite son
Years before.
that now we've got to go back with your other favorite son in order to get Simeon back. What a position to put the father in.
But you know what? Do you think too? You know how he kept that's his new favorite back, because when originally he sent Joseph out to his brothers to get them, he's like, I ain't sending this one.
I ain't sent this one.
Y'all go. I'm keeping this one right here with me.
Now, what's interesting is when he sent his brothers back, he not only sent them back, he sent them with the grain, and then he put some money in there.
Put their payment back.
I'm telling you, none of this was meant for any bad intentions. Joseph, to me, was kind of playing a little game, but we're going to find out in a minute. So when his brothers later realized that the money had been returned, they're even more afraid because now they think he's going to think we robbed him. We gave him the money. How do we get it back? So once they got home, they told Jacob all that had transpired. Jacob mourned again because, one, he had already lost Joseph, and now he lost Simeon. And then he says, I am not sending Benjamin. Despite Reuben's promise that if he did not return with Benjamin, Jacob could kill Reuben's 2 sons. That's pretty powerful. He said, ain't gonna happen. But then Judah, that praise. Oh, that's another sermon.
Before the fight.
That's another sermon.
They send Judah first.
That Judah got in there, and Judah persuaded him to send Benjamin with him, giving his own life as a pledge. What he did was he says, I'm going to sacrifice my own praise to show you that you can trust what God's about to do. Okay, that's another level. Jacob agreed, sending also.
That must have been quite convincing.
Well, Reuben
Yeah,
offered his 2 sons. Judah offered himself.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? A lot of people offer other people, but Jesus offered himself.
Right.
And that's what won him is Judah, praise, offered himself.
Yep.
All I do is praise, because praise is
what I do.
He offered himself, and it worked. So he agreed, sending also fruits and double the money for the grain. So not just the money they came back with, give more. Now,
Do you think that was to pay for what they already brought home plus?
Well, they probably thought that they were going to be convicted for stealing,
Yeah.
so they brought extra
Right.
just in case.
To pay for what
Right,
they brought back.
right. They brought bail.
Mhm.
Okay. When Joseph saw the men, he instructed his servants to slaughter an animal, prepare a meal for the brothers to dine with him. Afraid of the invitation, come on, y'all got to think like they're thinking now. How in the world do we get this food? What we brought gave back to us, and there's money in it. So now they get an invitation to Joseph's house. When they get there, they make apologies to Joseph's stewards for the money that had been replaced the first time. Joseph's stewards reassured them and brought Simeon out. They're scared, y'all. They're shaking in their boots. When Joseph returned, the brothers bowed to him. There it is. What happened? We're going back to the beginning.
What was the dream that caused them to be jealous in the first place?
You will bow to me. When Joseph came out as the ruler, the brothers bowed to him, fulfilling the earlier prophecy. He asked them about their family. How's your family? How's your welfare? And he started to cry. This time, he left and went to his bedroom because he was overwhelmed with emotions hearing about his father and his family. When the men sat down for a meal, I thought this was cute. When he sat down for a meal at a separate table, do you hear that?
From Joseph.
At a separate table from Joseph, they were amazed by arranged
They were made
to be arranged by birth. So they're in order.
But you know, before you go, I think about, and he'll prepare a table before you in the presence
Of your
enemies.
But he set them at a table, Sherry, and he set them in order that they were born. But watch this. Well, Joseph knows.
Joseph, but
They're looking like, why are we sitting in order?
Yeah.
Why can't I just sit here? No, sit them in order, okay? And then when they feed him, I just laughed when I read this. He gave Benjamin 5 times more than everybody else. Why? Joseph favored his little brother. Before sending them back to their father, Joseph again tested his brothers by returning their money to their grain sacks and placing a silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Joseph. He let the brothers start on their journey and sent his steward after them to feign anger and threaten to kill Benjamin. You stole from the ruler. Look in your bag. Back in Joseph's presence, Judah again pleaded for Benjamin's life, saying, if Benjamin were to die, so would Jacob. Oh, Judah knew what to say, Sherry. Judah knew he knew how to convince his father, and now he's going to pull on. Even though Joseph's playing games, they don't know that. But look what God does. He says, all right, Joseph, that's enough games. And Judah says, so would your father. Judah told of Jacob's grief over the loss of Joseph and his belief that he could not bear to lose Joseph's brother. Judah also spoke of his pledge to Jacob and offered his life to Benjamin.
Wow.
He said enough that it opened Joseph's eyes, and he began to realize his brothers actually have had a change of heart. They have grown up. They're still mourning. They're still guilty of what they did. And Joseph sent his servants away.
Yeah, and he wept.
And he wept loudly
Openly.
until his entire house heard him crying. Then he goes back to his brothers, chapter 45, and says to them, it's me, Joseph, your brother.
Yes, but said, telling them not to be angry with themselves for what they've done to him, saying that God had sent him to Egypt in order to preserve them.
This blows my mind because what he's really saying is, I forgive you. He says, listen, you guys stop crying and being angry and hurting over what you did to me. Because the reality is, I had to go through in order to come out. The reality is, I had to go into Egypt in order to be the ruler of Egypt. I could never be the ruler in Canaan. So everything that happened for a reason.
Because he had to interpret that dream to let them know you need to store up. during your years of plenty, you need to store up for those years of lack.
That's right.
Had he not did that, they would have died. He went to preserve. See, because at first, when you read the story, you think, y'all don't tell people your dreams because they're gonna plot to kill you. They're gonna but sometimes you might have to. Said some of it, this had to happen. He had to tell his dreams. They had to be jealous. He had to be in a pit, sold, prison, elevated prison. He had to do that in order to preserve the people.
Had to. And Andre Crouch said, if I never had a problem, how would I know God could solve them? He had to go through. I'm talking to somebody tonight. What you're going through, you have to go through this. You have to.
You have to.
And it's not even punishment. It's preparation. God's preparing you for something.
Yes.
You have to go through this. But go through. Don't stop there and
Go
wait.
through trusting
Go
and
through.
still doing the mandate that God has given you to do.
Because years later, chapter 50, you're going to find out when Jacob dies. And I know I'm jumping, but when he dies, Joseph looks at his brother and said, listen, what you meant for evil, God meant it for my good.
For my good, yes.
Y'all need to understand this. What people mean to try and hurt you, God can turn that thing around and cause it to elevate you.
Yes. And we might not understand it, but we sing that wonderful hymn, we'll understand it better
By
and by.
So Joseph sent his brothers back home to get their father. And the remainder of all of those that lived in Goshen, where they were to be coming to live in Goshen, so that they would be near Joseph.
Yeah, so Joseph wasn't going back to them.
Nope.
Y'all gonna come up here.
And Jacob did. They came and lived in Egypt with all his family. And before Jacob died, I thought this was so precious. Before he died, he blessed Joseph's two sons and gave thanks to God for his goodness and said in chapter 48, verse 11, I never expected to see your face again. And now God has allowed me to see your children too.
So not only did I see your face,
he gave me you and some.
And I got to see my grandchildren.
And verse 12, he gave a greater blessing to the baby of the two. See, when a father blesses you, it's something, but that favor's still going. Oh, Jacob, he's something else. Now, so many things we can get out of this lesson, but one of the ones I did get is a warning for parents. We cannot have a favorite, because if you have a favorite, you're going to hurt the others. I told y'all before, and I said this earlier, had Jesus favored one disciple over the other, and I know it says John, the one he loved, but Jesus loved all his disciples. But when he told Judas that you're going to betray me, and Judas left and ran, had Jesus left to go chase him, he would have left the rest of the disciples. Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, you have to let some people just go. If they're going to be that adamant, that against you, just let them go. But I'm telling you, but don't let your own favoritism over one child be over another child, because it's going to put a seed of deceitfulness, jealousy, anger, plotting, all these things you just seen. No good will come out of that. All right? And Joseph showed it. We had a good example of how to handle sexual temptation. How do you handle it? Run. We have a clear picture of how God was faithful. We have a clear picture. He does not forsake his children, even in the midst of their suffering. And Genesis 39:3 says, and the Lord was with Joseph. So we learn from the accounts of Joseph's life that by remaining faithful and accepting that God is ultimately in charge, we can be confident that God will reward our faithfulness in the fullness of time. Would you put that in the box there? Because I want you to minister that to yourself. Put, God will give me my reward. God will give me my reward. Sometimes you got to remind yourself that, okay, Lord, I didn't like the way this went, but I know you're going to bless me.
You're going to bless me.
Lord, I didn't like the way this happened, but I know you're going to bless me. In my ministry, since we just celebrated 23 years, several times in my ministry, we would go out, we would do things, and nothing would reciprocate from it in the way we thought it would. But I always remember Bishop Harrison telling me, when you do things for God, the blessings he has for you are beyond what man does. And there's been times where we've done things and we're like, Lord, nobody seems to care. Nobody appreciated it. And then next thing you know, God drops a blessing. And you're like, whoa, where did that come? When God says, because you've been faithful. If you're faithful over a few things,
He'll give you much.
Come on here, somebody. So you have to know that no matter what God allows you to go through,
no matter what place you are,
no matter what place you're in, God has a reward with your name on it. I didn't know if I was going to get through this lesson, because I taught this one, but I've been preaching it on my job. These folks looking at me like I'm crazy, because to me, the favor that God had on Joseph followed him every step of his life until the very end, that the very people that God used to start the process, Joseph ended up having favor on them. Come on here, somebody. God will favor you to a point that you will be able to favor your enemies. Chew on that for a minute.
The Bible says, bless them that curse you.
Bless them that curse you and despitefully use you.
That's not easy, but we got to do it.
God will use your favor to favor your enemies. Now, you might have to say, help me with that one, Jesus. Help me with that one. But if God favored you, favor wasn't fair for you, you have to remember that when God tells you to bless somebody else who you know don't like you.
You know, God affords us so much grace and so much mercy. We have to be willing to afford that same grace.
That's right.
That same mercy on our enemies.
I remember, and this is my last little story, I remember years and years and years and years ago, I knew someone did not care for us in the ministry. And I remember we were kind of stuck in a spot, and I had to pass the person, and I felt the Lord say, go embrace them. And I said, no. But as I got closer, I said no. But as I got closer, I felt myself going. Now, this person's old enough to have been my mother and stuff like that, but I felt the need, knowing that they were despitefully abusing, and I embraced them. And I squeezed them like old grandmas would squeeze you. And I said, I love you in Jesus' name. And I walked away. And I thought, Lord, I don't know why you had me do that. That broke the very thing that was in between. And to this day, the love has grown. But sometimes God will use you to be the one to break that. I know y'all always wait, oh, who am I talking to? Y'all always waiting for God to send that person to you for the apology. God might be using you to go and break that thing by a hug, a gift, a blessing. Are you willing to be used by God? We sing that song, any way you bless me. Really? Are you satisfied? We sing that song, I'll go where he wants me to go. Really? Where he leads me, I'll follow. Really?
Only if you go to where places I want to go. Because I don't want to go over there.
Come on. God bless you all for tuning in. It's good to see you on here, Pastor and Mother Skinner. I've been praying for you both.
Yes.
We love you so much down there. And it's just good to see you on here. All of you.
All of you. Thank you
Minister
so much.
Jeremiah, I've been missing you writing up on here, young man. I like that. That young man's special to me. And all of you that pop in here like that, I appreciate you. We do this out of love. We're not going to sit up here and say that every Tuesday we're excited to come on here and sometimes we sitting on a recliner like, oh.
Sometimes you're like, sleep is like, oh, we got to get up.
We got to get up. But then when we get to talking about the Lord, this is why we're using our gifts.
And I want to tell you, for those that are on here that do not come to New Life, you know, we mentioned it last week that we're going back in the building for our Bible study, starting the first Tuesday in June. We'll be at New Life for Bible study. But we love that you've tuned in throughout this pandemic, that we're still going to live stream.
We're still in a live stream.
You know, New Life that are in the area, we expect you
New Life
to be in the building.
We expect
I wish we could block the members from using
so that they have to come.
so that no, we wouldn't do that, but so
it will be live streamed. It will still be the both of us.
I'm
I know a
just
lot of
joking,
people. A lot of people were concerned that we would go back, and I don't even take offense to that.
No.
I find that our lessons are better when the two of us are doing it together.
No, I really thought, I was like, well, I could be back. I don't need to be beside.
No. This gives me and you stopped me from preaching, so it gives me an opportunity to teach, because you know very well, if I was by myself, we would have tuned up on some of these Bible lessons. But nonetheless, we'll be back together in June. Listen, this weekend is Mother's Day weekend.
Woo!
And
listen, my daughter said, do you want me to cook for you?
We might take her up on that. I'm surprised you didn't respond right away. I know
I
we
was
got other
tired.
things to
Did
do.
you see how I was tired?
Because
Like,
that don't get
overworked.
offered too often.
Tired.
So,
No, I mean, she just offered it right on up.
Yeah.
But she says, but I know we're going to go see Grandma.
Yeah, there's still time to cook. But anyways, it's Mother's Day weekend, and we want you to love on your mothers. And if your mother's not here, love on her memory. But watch, I'm going to say something. If your mother's not here, love on someone's mother, because a mother is a mother. Whether it's your mother or not, a mother is a mother.
And speaking of that, for those who have bought tickets to our mother-daughter luncheon, it is this Saturday. Now, somebody came to me Sunday and said, I thought it was at the church. So I just want to reiterate, it is not at New Life. It's at Victoria Green Lawn in the reception hall at the back entrance. So you go in there. It's in the back. You can come through the front, but then you have to go through the whole bit. But if you just come through the back, we're right there. And it's a very beautiful venue. And I really wanted to have a really pretty venue for our mothers. I really want to spoil you on that day because we are special.
Yeah, don't give it away. She's got a lot of little special things.
Don't say you don't know what I have.
You've been telling me. That's what you've been talking about. So anyway, she's got a lot of little special things planned for y'all. And then on Mother's Day, Sunday itself.
Good. I'm glad to hear, Uncle Larry. We have been praying.
We want you to come out for Mother's Day service and be a blessing, and receive the word, and then we'll be back
Saturday
here.
prayer. Do we know Saturday prayer? Oh,
Wow.
Lady
Gwendolyn Shear from Greater Mitchell. We've had her.
She's
and
a
her husband
first.
before.
She's a new.
First lady now.
Yeah, she's a first. Last time her and her husband did it together, she wasn't a first lady. Now she's the first lady. Her husband has become the pastor of the church since the father has passed away.
Yeah.
And she is quite a prayer warrior.
Quite a prayer warrior. Longtime friend of ours, Pastor Superintendent Ethan Sheard. But she's coming on, and you don't want to miss that Saturday. And then, of course, our Sunday school starts at 10 o'clock on Sundays. There's some. Go on our website. I know some of you might not know. It's New Life Fellowship Church online. Well, that's on the website. New Life Fellowship Church online. You'll see all of these flyers. Our church picnic is coming up. If you missed the carnival that we had on Saturday, it was a blessing. It was amazing. But now we're going to have our picnic coming up in June. We've got so many other things. We got a walkathon coming up. They already talked about having our annual barbecue come back. Like, things are changing, and we're getting things out there.
As
Every
things
month
open
there
up.
is something.
Yeah, well, things are opened up.
Things are opening up and getting better. Convocation is coming back live this year.
We are not. It's
Come
not
on.
by Zoom.
It's
What
not
do we
by
do?
Zoom or live
Okay.
stream.
I
It's
can't
gonna be
wait
live.
to see our folk.
So much is happening.
So
But
long.
thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We love you. And again, thank you for the love and the wishes.
Yes.
You guys spoiled us. We feel
Saturday, it was awesome.
That was a great concert.
Great.
Every
concert.
single person. So,
Everyone and the
thank
people
you.
that came, it was just a blessing. So thank you, everybody.
God bless you. Good night.